And for that hour, I was taken up into God. That God for her was, I think, a transcendentalist Unitarian God. She later became a transcendentalist leader. The transcendentalist Unitarian God at that time being the creative energy constituting the universe. And she wrote, very early I knew that the only object in life is to grow. That seems to be Fuller's epiphany from communing with nature. So I wonder what you would say is the object, the purpose that Mother Nature intends for her children. I would agree with Margaret Fuller, and I'd say in accord also with ancient mystic tradition and modern scientific thought, that what Mother Nature, like all mothers, intends, hopes, purposes for her children is to grow, to develop the potentials evolved in them, in us, across time and space from the moment of the big birth. Potential upon potential. Grow in the all, and all is yours. Our UU movement details this growth of spiritual potential in 7 principles, as you know, and with their particular values. From understanding and caring for the individual worth of every person to understanding and caring for the interdependent worth of all being. Last month, the Christian calendar celebrated Epiphany, also known as 12th night, the 12th night after Christmas. The night the Persian Magi followed a star and came to an epiphany in a baby. The brave and startling truth that every newborn baby is a seed of all human possibility, all human hope. 12th night was also pagan Europe's concluding event in celebration of winter solstice. It was a 24-hour period when the dominating rules of powerful royalty were set aside for the revelatory way of everyday people. It was a time for risk and wonder, when human potentials were freed to grow in the dark of winter. Ice can be nice, despite Mr. Frost's poem. Epiphany and 12th night require a puckishly hopeful, creative, caring mind. Curious, playful, grace-filled, and gracious. And as our principles affirm, we all have the potential to come to it. But how to come to it? To a grace-filled and gracious mind, short of following a star. And how to remember to keep coming to it. The most important truth amidst the rules and roles and the rollick of daily life. As wisely observed, the most important thing is to remember the most important thing. I, for one, moment to moment, need a simple way to remember. A few months before the poet Robert Frost died at age 88, he addressed an auditorium full of students at his alma mater, or one of them, Dartmouth College. And I was one of those students. During the question answer time, one student asked whether he correctly got the meaning of one of Frost's poems. The poet quickly reoriented the conversation, smiling and puckishly saying something like, "We poets get credit for anything good you get from our poems." Epiphanies we students might then have realized depend on our spirit and the poet's spirit coming together. Frost also once said, "Poetry is the only acceptable way to say one thing and mean another." Expanding that, Poets create images. Artists create images, the surface truth of which is easy to acknowledge. In order to ease us, they create in order to ease us into seeing deep truths, epiphanies that might be too veiled or intimidating if looked at directly. Interpreting life and truth, like interpreting poetry, can be very iffy. But Robert Frost is a poem that I love because it translates memorably, I think, into a simple way to live into the most brave, startling truth that we must remember about life and about living: grace and graciousness, creativity and growth. The poem isn't included in any reviewer's top 10 Robert Frost poems, as far as I could find, but it is the front piece poem in his collected works, which he oversaw. It is set before and separate from his many other poems, all otherwise arranged in chronological order of publication, so I presume he considered this poem his masterpiece, as to message and perhaps as to craft. It's called, as you heard it today, this morning, The Pasture. It's a pastoral, almost nostalgic title, evocative of once upon a time and the blessing of the animals. It is very simple. Two practices, two essential things to do in life, each described in a short verse, easy to remember because the verses are images more than words. Imagine a farmer speaking to a child or spouse or friend. I'm going out to clean the pasture spring. I'll only stop to rake the leaves away and wait to watch the water clear I may. I shan't be gone long, you come too. That's the first of the two most important farming practices there is, cleaning the pasture spring. Simple, but fundamentally essential for the health and beauty of the land and its creatures. And more beautiful still for those who take a moment to watch the water flow, cleared and clear, safe and happy. I'd say the poet intended this image to prompt in us another intention or purpose: to tend to cleaning the springs of our minds and our beings. That is a practice essential for the health and beauty of what could be called one's spirit, the stream of life flowing and flowering from the source spring and seeds of potential that could be called one's soul. I'm going out to clean my aspiring soul. I'll only stop to rake life's griefs away and wait to watch my spirit clear I may. I shan't be gone long. You come too. Wait and watch your minds and senses and character rise from the spring and come to stream clear into the pasture. You may recognize this practice as like mindfulness meditation. As the Buddha saw, for there to be right intention or purpose and conduct, there must first be right understanding. Understanding self, understanding others, understanding life. Cleared free of damning and delusion. Understanding when we come to it that we have the power, that we are the power of the universe for making peace and wonder in the world. Now, if you would, imagine the farmer turning a gaze from the spring to the pasture itself and saying to us, I'm going out to fetch the little calf that standing by the mother, it's so young it totters when she licks it with her tongue. I shan't be gone long. You come too. Isn't it the case that the empowering way of Mother Nature, the Divine Mother, is so wide and unconditional that it sometimes knocks a newborn over if there is not some natural assistance? Perhaps the calf needs water or some mash if the mother's milk is short. Or maybe it is vaccination time, or maybe the sun is setting and the barn is far away for a newborn baby to travel. I'd say the poet intended this image to prompt in us an intention to tend to the other most important practice in life, coming to help life thrive, especially when life is most vulnerable and most needs to grow. I'd say the poet is placing here in the pasture the other essential truth, that for the health and beauty of your spirit and its world, you too must come to contribute helpfully. You must come to take care of the great mother and all of her children, if life is to be sustained and your spirit thrive in joy and bliss. All we need to remember clearly is to come to help the mother and her children. Imagine farmer and child together learning, appreciating. Imagine farmer and spouse together, farmer and friend, watching gratefully together as the fundamental guarantee of life flows into life. And not just intending, but together covenanting to help the clear waters of heaven and nature sing. How good to have companions along to make the world more beautiful. Maybe inviting companions is in itself a third essential practice, which we must remember as part of the brave and startling truth. Or maybe coming together is simply integral to everything good. Indeed, how can we see all that needs clearing and helping in the pasture without the eyes of companions looking from other perspectives? All learning to fill ourselves with the creative energy we call grace and learning to be good, which we call gracious. Yes, fellow farmers and gardeners and friends of soul and spirit, I'm grateful we do come together, because tending and keeping the garden and the creatures by yourself is a lot of straining, lonely work. But together the work comes to be the greatest of blessings. Suffering understood, suffering shared, suffering comforted, joy intended, joy felt, joy shared, joy remembered. It's so simple, but it seems we need help to remember. Stories like Miss Rumphius and Lupines help me. Springtime and the pasture and its springs help me and you, I hope. Daily meditation, perhaps on grace and graciousness, help. The 2 pieces of sea glass I always carry in my pocket, one blue, one green, rubbing rough and smooth under my fingers like grace and graciousness. They all help remember the brave and startling truth, the power and the glory of coming to grow in understanding, to grow in caring, epiphany upon epiphany. If only we'll come to it, Maya Angelou says. If only we'll come to, says Robert Frost. So may we all. Blessed be.
Thank you so much, Reverend Jack. And we have some time for comments, questions.
Great.
Anyone?
Phew.
Yeah, exactly. You just really touched the corners of my heart. You, I love the third job that Miss Rum, whatever her name is,
Rumphius,
had.
yes.
Yes, Miss Rumsius. And I think that by the work that we're doing in this congregation, we are in a small way making the world a better place and bringing beauty and bringing joy to people. Anyone else have something that they would like to share? Please unmute yourself and
Jim Tarvin.
um, Frost was very complex, and I remember reading of an anecdote where he was teaching students in a seminar at his house near Dartmouth College, Dartmouth students. It was an evening seminar, and a student came early, and he and Frost went out on a deck that overlooked the backyard and the woods, and it was the sun was setting. And the student said, "Isn't it beautiful?" And Frost said, "No, it's terrible." He said, "You hear that hawk? He's looking for a rodent to kill and eat. Each of those trees is fighting for the sunlight. And if it's successful, it can shadow and kill the tree next to it. Everything out there is a struggle and a fight for survival. It's not beautiful." So you can see the complexity of Frost, because the earlier poem celebrates the beauty. And it's all there, the beauty and the harshness of life.
That's such a good point. And I remember sharing the poem, this particular poem, with some folks, and I gave my sort of upbeat, positive interpretation, and one of the folks said, "What if he's taking the calf in to the slaughter?"
deal.
And I think for me, then it becomes sort of almost a uniquely, we can see beauty in nature, we can see terror in nature, but we do have the unique opportunity to come to our senses and try to make of life as beautiful a thing as we can. It's kind of, I think nature often exhibits great beauty, but we can intend it. We can make it our purpose. And by beauty, I really mean a truly good and helpful life. But that's a great observation. Thank you, Jim.
Science has learned, though, lately that trees do actually cooperate underground. And so there may be some vying for the sunlight, but they also are cooperating. So let us pay attention to what science will teach us.
Yeah.
Well said.
I had a friend in Florida who in his early career was I guess he was a zoologist, and he studied higher primates. And for his PhD work, he went to Belize and was studying one of the higher ape forms, primates, not chimpanzees, but their close correlate in the New World. Maybe bonobos, I'm not sure. But it was a chimpanzee-like critter, and he was following a particular group, a tribe of them. And every morning he noticed the elders, 5 or 6 of them, would climb the highest tree in the area, and they would sit on one branch, and they would face eastward and watch until the sun came up. And as soon as the sun crested the mountain range that was in the distance, they would all come back down, and the village and the tribal life, the village life of those higher primates would begin. It was almost as if they had to check in with nature in some way that I attribute to an appreciation of the beauty of the world, to start the day. It was their kind of their blessing clock as opposed to their alarm clock. Maybe it's not just us, I guess is what I'm saying.
A blessing clock versus an alarm clock. I like it. Anyone else? Reverend Jack, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Rose had her hand up,
Oh,
and so did
okay.
Lydia.
Thanks, Jim.
Lydia also wants to talk,
Oh, good.
and Mike.
Okay.
I'll go first. I want to say I really appreciate Reverend Jack. Thank you so much. That was really wonderful. And the images that came to mind were inspiring. Patrick and I live on Beaver Dam Lake, and it has been amazing looking this winter with it freezes and then it snows on top of the ice, and then the wind blows the snow, and it's every day it's a new beauty, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Lydia? Thank you, Rose.
Hi. Hi. I remember you so well from the time you came before. Thank you. My family moved down to that area. I'm still up here in Beacon, so I have no family in the area. And it happens when you have no family, either in this area or even in this country, that for me, the memories of my early childhood become more and more vivid. And I spent a great deal of time with my aunt and uncle in Brunswick, Maine, out on a little peninsula called Mere Point, Mere, on the
Oh, yeah.
Casco Bay.
Oh, yes.
And then later I would visit them all through my high school years. One time I hitchhiked all the way from Northfield Mount Herman School in Massachusetts just to spend time with them. So these wonderful images, when Robert Frost came to talk at Bowdoin College, I see now why those visuals that I was experiencing listening to his words actually had a lot more to them than just visuals. These deeper truths that this congregation is pointing out in response to those deeper truths that you are pointing out fills me with great rich fulfillment of being somewhat awake, maybe not woke, but somewhat awake. Thank you so much. And I hope that you will print your address, so if I ever get down to visit my family, I can find your congregation.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
That's lovely.
thank you.
Mhm.
You will be able to find this message, and I apologize for missing the first inch of it because I neglected to say that we were going to record, but the message will be on YouTube and posted on our website, Lydia, and everyone else.